All right, welcome back to Coffee Cafe. This is where we last left off. Okay, we bought a computer and printer, right? There it is. And now we need to go ahead and proceed to the next one, which is going to be same day, okay, which was June 5th here, Wednesday. We decided to pay some liability insurance, okay? For 12 months, okay, starting June 5th of 2020, okay, and um, it's for the amount of $2,350 issued a check paid to Sargent Insurance Company, okay, and we have the policy number 884513, okay. So here we're making a payment to Sargent Insurance. So how should we record this? Okay. We bought a 12-month insurance policy plan. And we paid with a check. Okay. We paid with a check, so we know it's going to come out of our checking account. What about the rest? How else am I going to record this 12-month insurance plan?
Is it payroll expense?
This is insurance.
It would be the insurance expense 604 here.
Yes, because in this case, we're paying for insurance, right? So we got an insurance expense. Now, in this case, we can only use insurance expense for the current month. So that means if I can only use insurance expense for just the month of June. So what happens to the other 11 months? How do I record those other 11 months?
It would go to prepaid account.
Correct. Insurance expense. It would go to a prepaid account because in this case, right, we made a payment for something in advance, right? Very, very similar to the rent expense, right? We paid in advance. So that means we bought insurance. So that means the next month that we incur insurance, right? It's going to be considered a prepaid account because we already paid in advance for it, right? That means the 11 months is going to be a prepaid accounts. And since we've already mentioned this, right, we paid with the check. Okay, so let me see, that was 6,400. Prepaid accounts. is 18,600. And we know checking is 10,100. Okay? So we know this much, right? We know that we paid a grand total of $2,350. Okay? How do I know how much that is for per month? If I were to divide this by 12 per month, how much insurance is it for a month?
We divided by 12.
Yes, how much is that?
Oh, okay. Okay, we divide 2,050 by 12. I got 195, 8333.
Good. Okay. So we know if it's 2,350 and I'm going to subtract 1 month, then that means the remainder should give me $2,154.17, right? That's 11 months worth of insurance to give me my grand total of $2,350. Okay? So now I need to cut my check out first because I need to get my check number. Okay? So here I'm going to be writing out check number 1503 for $2,350. Who is it going out to? Sergeant Insurance. Why did I write them a check? For insurance. Okay? Means I can go to my general journal. I have everything I need to be able to fill this out. Who was my vendor? Sergeant Insurance Company. Okay? What was my policy number? Or what did I get? Right? You could say you got 12-month insurance. What was my policy number? 884513. And last but not least, another piece of information was I used check 1503 to pay for this transaction. Okay. All right. So then now I put as much details as possible about this transaction. So then now I know when I come back here on this page, I could see this and be like, okay, I bought insurance, a 12-month plan. This is my policy number, and this is the check that I used to pay it off. Okay. So now that I finished my journal, I need to now update my ledger. Okay, starting with the first one, which was the insurance expense. So I need to locate that under operating expenses. Okay. Here you go. Insurance expense. Right? June insurance expense. post reference, right? What page of the journal are we on? First page. And we are going to debit for $195.83. Okay. Next, we need to go to our prepaid accounts because, right, we're going to go in order in our journal. So I just finished my insurance expense. So the next one I have on the list is my prepaid insurance. Okay. Okay, here it is. Prepaid accounts. And then you could say advanced payment for 11 months insurance. Right, and you can even put in that it's $195.83 per month. That was in my journal, page 1. And let's see. I got it for 11 for 100 no wait for $2,154.17. Okay. So I've increased my accounts, my prepaid accounts here. So I started out with 4,500 and I increased it by $2,154.17. So in this case, I'm going to, my formula here for my Excel is going to be previous balance plus any debits minus any credits. Okay? So in this case, if you're looking at direction, it's up 1 plus left 2 minus left 1. Okay? And that should give you a running balance of 6,654.17. Okay? So we have prepaid rent here and we have prepaid insurance. All right. So we also wrote a check. Check number 1503. We subtracted money, so we're going to be crediting our account for 2,350. So then therefore, right, my running balance, because I have my formula in here, since I'm decreasing my cash flow, right? I wrote a check for $2,350. It decreased my account from $13,000 to $11,561.29. Okay? So again, when you plug in your formulas, it just makes it that much more easier to obtain your answers in Excel. Okay? You don't need to do no calculator work here because it will automatically calculate it for you. You just have to make sure that you type in the correct numbers every single time. Okay? So there you go. We finished our journal. We finished our ledger. One person that we need to go through is or one more last part is going to go through the subsidiary ledger, because we dealt with a vendor, right? We dealt with the insurance company. You definitely want to keep record of this insurance company, because what if they go beyond their contract, right? What if they go beyond their policy number? Something doesn't look right. You can always pull up the contract number and be able to prove to this insurance company that you made advance payments already, that they shouldn't be charging you money at all. Or if there's any late fees or anything like that, you could dispute them because you have the contract number. So it's important that you do fill this part out here. So Sergeant is letter S. There you go. Sergeant Insurance. You bought a 12 month insurance policy. And you at least wrote a check number 1503. Okay. Invoice number could be the same thing as your contract number, so policy number. Let's take a look at what that was. Policy number 884513. General journal, right? It's still on the first page. Now in this case, your insurance did not give you any terms. Okay? So they don't give you the opportunity to take a discount. However, you know for a fact that you paid $2,350. And you paid for it. Okay? So let's go ahead and practice that formula one more time here. Right? You're always going to start with your invoice amount. Things that decrease your invoice amount is going to be any prepaid, any returns or allowances, any discounts, and any payments. So in this case, you should be at 0. So let's do that formula one more time. It's going to be invoice amount minus your prepaid, minus your returns, minus discounts, minus payments. Okay? So in this case, right, I owe $2,350, but I paid it using check number 1503. Okay, so I don't owe Sergeant Insurance anything, but they owe me service now, because I bought a 12-month insurance plan. That means I should be protected for a whole year. Okay. So that's that right there. Right? Any questions so far? No questions? Okay, let's go ahead and see what happened next on the next day, which is June 6th. June 6th, Thursday, right? We end up applying for a business credit card from National Bank. Anything there? Do we need to record this transaction?
No,
No. Why?
because we just applied, we didn't do anything.
Good, right? We only applied for a business credit card, right? What's the criteria for a business credit card? Usually, the amount is determined by the bank, because they're going to be running your credit score to see how much you can actually afford to have a credit for. Okay? Now, in this case, we only applied. We don't know what the amount is. Okay? So, at least we can know that we just applied for a credit card for National Bank. So then, right, Maine Bank of Nevada approved of a line of credit for $10,000. Okay? And this $10,000 is to be applied for overdraft protection and for personal loans. Okay? Which can be taken out in increments of $1,000. Okay? So then you got some terms, interest rate of 22%, which is applied to unpaid balances, okay? And it's going to be compounded every day, okay? So in this case, we got a line of credit for $10,000. What do we do with this? How do we record that we have a line of credit? How do we record that we got a line of credit?
Because we did it through the bank.
Okay, but how do we record this line of credit?
The credit when we put money, right? Oh, we have either the credit for the business.
This is credit for the business, yes.
Mm-hmm. So when we pull the money or we pay with the credit, it's gonna be like shown through the bank.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So do I need to record this transaction? Yes or no?
No.
Good. Because here's the condition. You need to spend the money. We only received the $10,000 credit, but there's a condition. It's only to protect your bank from overdraft protection, and it's only if you take personal loans out in increments of $1,000. So in this case, we didn't take any of the money out yet. So that means we do not need to record this transaction because we didn't spend the money yet. We still have that $10,000 line of credit. However, this information is very important for a future transaction because what if your bank does overdraft? You have this protection plan, but you need to be able to place this information because if you end up using this money, you're going to get charged a 22% interest and it's going to be compounded every single day. So in this case, where can we write this extra information? Because this is very important to know. So in this case, this is a principal adequate disclosure. Where does it recommend us to put this information? Because this is definitely information you need to know in case you do end up doing one or the other transactions here, whether you have an overdraft protection or whether you took money for a personal loan. So where should I put this information? What does adequate disclosure tell you to do?
Is it the receipt when we spend money?
No.
Do we make like case notes?
What kind of notes? Okay, so in chapter 4, under adequate disclosure, they tell you that any pertinent information about a transaction, you need to post it or create a notes to the financial statements. Now, in this case, I'm going to tell you this. With the time span that we have, I am not going to ask you to create a financial report. What I want you to do is, since this is pertinent information, I want you to put it in your subsidiary ledger. Because this is dealing with the main Bank of Nevada, right? That'll be a perfect place to put your notes down. Okay? So, I'm going to go to my main Bank of Nevada, and I'm going to use that as my place to put in my information that I just received today. So in this case, here's Main Bank of Nevada. I received that I have a line of credit for $10,000, okay, for overdraft protection or personal loan, okay, and I'm going to be charged 22% interest. Okay. That's definitely something you should put a note here, but that doesn't mean there's necessarily a transaction here, right? Because this is a condition. At least we know that if we do go over the money or we do pull the money out, we're going to get 22% interest charged. So at least that's something we can keep in mind. Okay? And that we have a $10,000 credit limit. Then it says here, we're going to go ahead and do our very first purchase order. We're going to buy something from the furniture store. Okay? We're going to buy one desk set, okay, which cost us $562, okay? And that's the estimated unit cost is $562. So we have a purchase order, right? How do we record a purchase order?
Is it purchase expense?
Not a purchase expense because remember, that's for inventory only. Are we going to be selling this desk set?
No.
No. So it's definitely not a purchase order or a purchase expense. What kind of asset is a desk set?
Fixed.
It's fixed, right? So that means we're eventually going to be acquiring more fixed assets. Now, in this case, this is a simple purchase order. How do I record a purchase order?
Purchase order.
Do we have a purchase order account?
I'm not sure.
You can check your chart of accounts. Do I have a purchase order account? Let's think for a minute, okay? I issued a purchase order to furniture store. Let me ask you two questions. First off, did I receive my desk set? Did I issue a check or received a bill for this desk set? So is there a real transaction that happened when I did a purchase order? No. In this case, all you did was just order furniture store to say, "Hey, I want to buy something from you." You didn't receive the items, nor did you receive a bill or pay them. So in this case, a purchase order is going to be considered another non posting transaction, or we call them non cash transaction, because a purchase order just simply means you're just putting in an order. Okay? So that means no, we don't need to record this because we never received the item. A transaction never occurred, right? All we did was just simply submit an order. However, we need to keep a really good track record of our orders because as an accountant, right? If you don't have someone that's in charge of inventory, or if you don't have someone that's just in charge of buying stuff for the company, like someone who's in charge of just purchases in general, then you're going to be responsible to make sure that every order that you go through, you receive those items on the other end. Because if you don't end up receiving them, then if you're ordering, and then you never keep track of it, then you don't know what you have and what you don't have yet, right? So let's go ahead. We do have a section for this. It's called purchase orders, which is in the same page. So in this case, we need to at least record the purchase order itself. So then when we do receive the items, right, we can match it against our purchase order to make sure that, yes, we did end up receiving this item from this vendor. Okay, so here we go. Very first one here is purchase order number 17301. There you go, matches that. So we ordered this on the 6th. Okay. Who did we order from? We ordered from furniture store. Okay. All right. What was the item that we bought? We bought a desk set. Okay. We bought only one with a quantity unit price of $562. So therefore, the total amount that we purchased it for is the $562. So therefore, that's my grand total is this much. Okay. So let me change these. Okay. So that means when we actually receive the items, right? We can put the when did we actually receive them and what was the invoice number on that. Okay? So at least we have a track record here that we bought a desk set. We bought one of them for $562. Okay? All right. So that's what we do. So we have to just wait till we receive the items and we actually either receive a bill or we pay them. Okay, so it's a non-posting transaction. Okay. So then the next day, okay, or no, same day, the 6th of June, which is Thursday, we end up putting in a second purchase order to furniture store. So maybe we accidentally forgot something, right? and we're like, okay, well, let's just submit another purchase order instead of fix it. So this time I bought one counter, all right, for $1,035, and 5 display shelves, which cost $102 per shelf. Okay, so in this case, my grand total is $1,543. So how? So now this time, what do I do with this purchase order? I'm going to pop it into my purchase orders list. So in this case, this is order number 302. So here we are, 66. Okay. Who did I buy from? Same place, furniture store. Okay, what did I buy? Well, I bought a counter and I bought display shelves. Okay. One, and I bought 5 of those display shelves. Now in this case, my unit price for this for the counter was $1,033, while my display shelves was $102 each. Okay. So then my total amount for my counter was $1,033, while my display shelves gave me a grand total of $510. So therefore, my grand total amount should be the $1,543. So at least we know that is correct. Okay. And at least we know. So in case, let's say they shipped us something, right? What if they shipped us the counter and the display shelves separately? What if they were to only able to ship us only 2 display shelves? That way we're able to backtrack and check mark, did we receive all 5 display shelves? In this case, if they were to send us only 2, then we're missing 3. So we can always backtrack and look at how much that we received. Because if that's the case, right, we can always counter against it and say, well, I'm missing 3 of those, and if they cost me $102 each, then I'm missing X amount of dollars. So that's how we can use a purchase order for everything that we're seeing here, is that what if we end up not receiving a portion or received only half of a portion? Okay? Because that is something that can happen, right? You can get split shipments for items, okay? So that's that there. So then, next thing that we have here is electricity is connected. $100 deposit is required, payable to NV Utilities. Okay, invoice number 502. Okay. So what happened here? The electricity was turned on. However, a $100 deposit is required. So if you ever have those things where you have to put a deposit down in order for you to turn on some either electricity, water, or whatever it is, right? So what happens to the deposit? That deposit will come back to you. So how do we record this deposit to keep the electricity on? how would I record this electricity deposit? Deposits, right? Straightforward. So in this case, 18,700. And how are you going to pay? Checking, right? Because do you have cash on you? No. So you're going to be writing a check out. And it even says right here, you're going to make it pay, you're going to write a check, make it payable to NV Utilities. Okay, so 18,700 and 10,100. How much are you going to pay? $100. Okay. So let's go ahead and write our check out. Okay. So today is the 6th. We paid $100 to who? NV Utilities. Okay. And why? Electricity. An electricity deposit. And we have our invoice number 502. Okay. So we have all our information that we need, right? Who was the vendor that provided us this electricity? NV Utilities. Okay. What was my invoice number? Invoice that proved that we had a transaction? 502. And what's another proof of transaction? That I wrote them check number 1504. And you can also put in that you'd made an electricity deposit. Okay. For $100. So I finished my journal. So I'm going to post it to my ledger now. Okay. So I'm going to do it in the exact order like I mentioned so I don't mix up whether I paid or not. So first things first is you're going to locate your deposits. Okay, here's my deposit right here. So I have a rent deposit right here. And now I'm going to enter in information about my electricity deposit. So you can write electricity deposit. You can even put in the person's name or the vendor's name. So you can write NV Utilities. It doesn't really matter as long as you're able to make the reference here. Right, we're still on our first page and we're going to increase our account by $100. So in this case, right, same formula. We're going to go up 1. We're going to add any debits and we're going to subtract any credits. So in this case, we go up 1, right, which is the 1,500. We're going to add 100 because debits increase this account, and we're going to subtract any credits, which we have 0. So in this case, we should have a total of $1,600. Okay. So we have that. Then we also have to update our checking account because we end up paying and writing a check. So it's very important that we keep track of our books in regards to where our money is going, right? So in this case, I wrote another check, 1504. Okay, still on journal number 1 here. And I'm going to credit my account because I spent another $100. So I went from $11,561.29 to $11,461.29 because I put in that formula, right? If I had a debit, it would increase that. If I had a credit, it would decrease it. So in this case, it subtracted out $100 from my balance. Okay. All right. So once I've done my journal, I already posted to my ledger. So the last one I need to do is I need to make sure that I plug this number in as well into my subsidiary ledger. Because what if my electricity did not even go on? What if I'm having problems with my electricity? I can go ahead and call NV Utilities and say, hey, I paid you for electricity, so why isn't the electricity on? Why did my electricity shut off? Okay, you can ask those questions because you paid into it already. So there you go. NV Utilities. Okay. You could say you had an electricity deposit. Okay, and that you paid using check number 1504. Okay. Invoice number. What was my billing statement number? Let's see. It was billing number 502. Post reference, still on the first page. Now, usually utilities will never give you a discount, so you can skip this section here. And the statement said that, or the invoice said that you owed $100, and you paid that $100. Okay, so once again, this formula is going to be starting out with your invoice amount. Anything that affects it is going to be your prepaid, or decreases it will be your prepaid, your returns, your discounts, and your payments. So that means you should be at $0 to NV Utilities because you already paid them. Okay? And that it was a electricity deposit. Okay? So then telephone services is connected. Okay, installation fees to be included with the first month's bill. So what do we do with our telephone expenses? How do I record this? What do I do with this telephone expense? My telephone line is connected. Installation fees are to be issued with the first month's bill. So what do I do with this transaction? Do I have a telephone expense account?
We could do it like expenses.
Utilities expense.
Now, what's the problem with this right here? Have I ever received my first month's bill yet?
Not yet.
When will I receive my first month's bill?
Next month.
Next month. So in this case, is this a transaction that I can record?
No, because we didn't receive the receipt yet.
Excellent. So that's correct. So in this case, nothing here. It's just us to note that, hey, your telephone line is connected, okay? And all the installation fees are just going to be on your first month's bill. Okay. So then let's see what's next here. All right? Same day, Thursday. Okay? Natural gas is connected. $100 deposit is required, payable to NV Utilities. This time, invoice number 552. So in this case, I got some gas going on. In order for us to turn it on, we have to pay a $100 deposit. So, how would we pay NV Utilities if we had to write out another deposit? For another $100.
Deposit and checking.
It's going to be the same exact transaction here, except obviously you have a different policy number or a different invoice number and a different check number that you're going to issue. So I'm going to copy this because that's the beauty of Excel, is that you have the ability to copy and paste transactions. And you also have the ability to also edit transactions. So here we barely have enough to fit in there. So it does fit. Okay. So we got the deposit in the checking account. Now in this case, right, NV Utilities, this is invoice number 552. We're going to write a different check number. Instead of 1504, it'll be 1505. Okay? And this isn't electricity deposit. This is going to be gas deposit. Okay? But everything else looks the same, right? All we had to do is fix our description. Okay? We still end up paying NV Utilities $100 deposit. Okay? So let's go ahead and grab our check first, and then we'll finish off this later. So here, check. It is still the 6. We made another $100 deposit to NV Utilities, but this time it's for gas deposit. Okay, so there you go. Now we finish our general journal page 1. So let's go ahead and update our ledger and our subsidiary ledger so we can move on to the next page. So once again, we're going to go to my ledger account. We'll go ahead and do it for this one time only, or this first time here. So let's go ahead and, since I'm already on my checking account, we wrote another check for $15.05 here, still on general journal, and we decided to write another check for $100. So therefore, right, you should get a decreasing amount of $11,361.29 because we spent another $100. Okay. And then I'm gonna go down to my deposits because I need to also record that I spent $100 for the gas deposit. So almost there. Okay, so here's prepaid accounts. There you go, deposits. So once again, it's the 6. What did you put a deposit down for? Gas deposit. Okay. NV utilities. Still on the first journal page. And we increased our deposits by another $100. So once again, 1,600, right? Plus 100 minus blank gives me a total of $1,700 in my deposits, right? Because I increased it by $100. 1,600 plus 100 gives you 1,700. Okay. So again, journal, ledger, and we also now need to update our subsidiary ledger because we need to make sure that when we do, let's say, run the heater, right, it's going to take away from the natural gas. Okay, let's say I need it to boil some water. All right, that we made a payment to NV Utilities for the gas deposit. Check number 1505 because that's proof that we paid it. This was invoice number 552. Okay, still on General Journal page 1. And the invoice was for $100. And we made a payment of $100. Okay. So here's what's the also cool thing about Excel is that now I don't have to actually punch in that formula once again. Because what I can do here is I can grab the formula right here. So if I double click on it, that's the formula, right? I can have that awesome feature where if you see that little square right there, that green square, put your mouse on it. I can drag the formula all the way down. And what does it do? It takes that exact formula, but instead of using it for the top row, it takes it from the next bottom row. We call that relative, okay? Relative cell referencing. So in this case, it's taking the information from above, right, the formula, but it's applying it to the next line below. So in this case, if you look very carefully, like all my little squares are highlighted, okay, because it's telling me that they took the invoice amount, subtract the prepaid, subtract the return, subtract the discounts, and subtract the payments, and it's applied to the row after it. So in this case, therefore, I owe nothing to NV Utilities. Okay. All right. Everybody good so far?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. So let's actually stop here for now. We're gonna go on break, okay? Because it is about 9:35 right now. So you're gonna take your 20-minute break. So please be back no later than 10:05. Okay. So 9:35.